Hey everyone, welcome to Proof of News. I am Whit Gibbs here today with my awesome co-host Ethan Vera. Ethan, episode 2. How are we feeling, man?
Let's do it. Full week here, so excited to jump in.
Yeah, it's awesome. We get to cram 7 days worth of news into the next hour. So hopefully you guys find value here. We're going to cover what we feel are some of the more important stories in Bitcoin and in mining. It's been a crazy 24 hours, right?
When we first designed the show, I thought every week would be, too soon because there wouldn't be enough news to cover. But it's in fact been the opposite. Like we could have had a whole show in the past 24 hours.
I'm gonna have to make this a daily show. I don't know if you're down for it, but we'll have to figure that out. No, man, I think we should jump right into it. There's some very, very important news. For the first time ever, uh, Bitcoin Cash is forking, and these fucking guys, like, I don't know, like at this point it's almost a joke. Now they've named it CAT, so Bitcoin Cash became BCH ABC and BSV, and now we have BCH ABC becoming BCH CAT. What's up, man? What do you think?
I think it's Hypo who said, we name it BTC Cat or BCH Cat because it sounds friendly, and there's not going to be a trade war. Everyone loves cat, so we'll keep it nice and friendly.
Yeah, everyone loves cats. Everyone hates Bitcoin Cash. So I guess it kind of goes, they should pick a mascot that people enjoy. Uh, but I mean, okay, so let's get real with this. Like, there's been so many of these forks, and they are quite laughable, and it just further fragments their already fragmented community. Is there any positive in this news, though? Is there anything that could benefit the space as a whole?
I think it'll have a positive effect on Bitcoin miners. If you look at the Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash fork as a case study and then Bitcoin Cash to BSV, we can learn insights onto how that increases the value of hash rate over time, really just like increasing the emission set. So if there's a fork that stays on the same algorithm, it just ultimately creates more emission rate for the same amount of hash rate. So this could be a benefit to Bitcoin miners, even if it crashes the price of Bitcoin Cash. So I think Bitcoiners should be happy about this, at least the miners.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, a lot of pools have profit switching algorithms set up anyway for SHA-256. So they're getting, these people are mining a little bit of everything anyway, right? So hopefully it does benefit them. I don't know. I mean, these all have to die though eventually, right? I mean, it's number 5 as far as market caps go. Do you think we see BCH, ABC, CAT, BSV go away?
Hard to say, or maybe BCH Cat forks itself. So Hypo, the CEO of Via BTC, he's the one leading this fork, or at least he posted on Twitter that he wants to fork BCH. Um, I think he was just unhappy of how BCH is going. If you look at how it's trading against BSV, it's been getting crushed the past year, down
Yeah.
42%. Obviously, these guys are very financially driven, so that price performance, I'm sure, is not sitting well with him.
Right.
He is an interesting guy. Via BTC is backing from Bitmain. Bitmain's like a minority shareholder.
Mm-hmm.
They try and separate the companies as much as possible. They came out with a new statement that he has 10 times the voting shares that the investors do. So it sounds like he controls Via BTC, but he's definitely still connected to Bitmain. So I'm sure that's not having good relationships there. But as we know, Bitmain's in shambles. So
We will
uh,
we will certainly get to that. If BCH CAT does fork though, they have to call themselves Bitcoin Cash Tom and Bitcoin Cash Jerry. I think we just need to be done with it. It's like we gotta, like, at this point we just gotta play into the joke a little bit. Okay, so it's good that it could be beneficial for miners. I know last year we talked quite a bit about BCH, so we'll move fairly quickly past this one. I know it's kind of a wait and see still, right? It hasn't happened yet. It's still being discussed. Maybe it happens, maybe it won't. We'll let the market do what it does. But in some very big news and pretty bullish news for Bitcoin mining in general, Texas has updated some important regulations. So why don't you give everyone the scoop on those?
Yeah, I first came across it from Marty's Twitter. He was posting on a new ruling or a new proposal by the Texas regulators. Basically, companies that are seeking to flare gas for an extended period of time are facing a more detailed application process, and they need to provide the regulators more justification on why they need to flare that gas. And so these companies are going to start looking for alternatives to flaring it. And Bitcoin mining, as we've seen with Crusoe, Great American Mining, Upstream Data, is a great way to reduce that amount of flared gas. So I think that's super bullish for parts of the U.S. and Canada that are utilizing flared gas at oil wells. So I'm super pumped to have oil producers start to look to alternatives. It's better for the environment, and you get to secure what could be the most valuable resource in the world, Bitcoin.
Yeah. So okay, so these regulations are there, and now all of these oil companies are required to look elsewhere. Do we run into a situation where there's not the ability to meet the demand for these facilities? I mean, right now it would seem like we're under quite the crunch when it comes to hardware. So even though these regulations are changing, I'm just wondering if this is the kind of catalyst that could lead to a North American, like a real North American ASIC manufacturer, right? Because if you think about the people who have the money to actually deploy the capital necessary to build a facility that can supply ASICs at scale, it's the oil companies, right? So if they need to get this stuff done, shit, I mean, we've talked about it all the time. They're great allies to have. Be interesting to see how that plays out. When do the new regulations take effect, or have they already?
I think it's just still a proposal phase. So we'll have to follow along. I'm sure Steve Barber, Marty, those guys will constantly be posting about it. But I agree with you. Like, the stage is being perfectly set for a North American ASIC manufacturer. Oil guys coming into the space, which are well funded. Trade war, which is obviously highlights the need for having stuff onshore, and Bitmain falling apart. It's like you couldn't have asked for a better stage to be set for somebody to come in and build this thing. So I'm hopeful that it happens.
Well, speaking of somebody that is building their own ASICs, Layer One also made their way into the news. That is, I mean, look, I interviewed Alex on the show, and I know a lot of people have mixed opinions of Layer One, whatever. I'm a total freaking fanboy. Like, after that interview, I came out of it a huge fan. I totally buy into what they're doing. I mean, he's a good dude, and I think that what they're building is pretty cool. And what I know, they've got a new certification from ERCOT.
Yeah, that's what he was posting on his Twitter about. They got labeled as a controllable load resource. So basically, they can vary their electric usage based on real time demand, and act as a grid stabilizer, which he's been posting on his Twitter about for the past year now. So glad that they got that pushed through. I
Yep.
don't think this is a new program. That's been out for about 15 years, and I think some data centers have utilized that as a way to stabilize grids. But my understanding is that Layer One and Hollow Ranch were like the first to start using this from a Bitcoin mining perspective. So I think that use case is there. And on the Alex Legal point, like he does attract quite a lot of attention, both positive and negative. I think ultimately him and Chase from Crusoe, like, they brought venture capital money into Bitcoin mining. They opened up an entirely new fundraising route.
Yep.
So, whether you think that a lot of his stuff is marketing or not, I think what they're doing for the space is good, as long as they succeed. So, and Whit, you talk about this a lot, man. Like, this space is so new. We need to support each other as much as we can. Yes, mining is a zero sum game, but at the end of the day, like we want to build each other up. So, let's give each other the benefit of the doubt and support each other as much as we can. And I really hope that both Crusoe and Layer One succeed, because then VC funding is going to be available to so many more miners.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, especially now when you think about the price where it's going, and it's exciting to think about potentially Bitcoin crossing 12K here in the next, 24 to 72 hours. Who knows? That's going to bring a ton of attention, right? 12K is a pretty significant barrier or resistance if you're a trader that Bitcoin hasn't really held above in quite some time. So if we can get back above there and stay above there, all signs indicate that we're looking for something pretty major as far as Bitcoin's price goes. And that's definitely going to bring a lot of new monetary interest to the space, and having examples like Layer One or a Crusoe, or really any of these uh, substantial mining companies that are out there and have a public voice and have a good image, it's all going to be good. It's all going to help. It's all going to help the little guys get a foothold and start growing a business that'll allow them to find success. So definitely, to your point, I think it's important to support everyone. And I mean, when I talked to Alex, I told him this is like, some of his stuff is a little bit hype beasty, but hey, look, like I think there's no shortage of memes about how people from Silicon Valley tend to, like, love that aspect of social media, and I don't fault them, man. Whatever they're doing is working. So
Yeah, I mean, you guys posted this on your Twitter, like describing Bitcoin mining in the most complex way. It's the new flex, and Layer One's definitely mastered it, and it brought in like teal money. So I mean, if that's what you need to do to bring teal onto the table, good for him.
but listen, we got to stop that to a point. Like, if I wake up in the morning and I read my timeline and I'm like, what does this mean? If I have to I don't want to be thinking that in depth at one of your shit posts while I'm having my coffee. Like, if you're shit posting and it's like, whatever, just pick one. And I'm like, wow, my brain isn't ready for this right now. It's, God bless.
Bitcoin mining's a global arbitrage of electricity and a perpetual swap of future revenue
You know,
interest rates.
like, good. It just makes me feel dumb. Like, I just want, like, Bitcoin mining is cool, period. Send tweet, right? Like, there we go. I think we said it. That's everything. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe we need to be tweeting more and find, like, I just need to have a thesaurus next to my desk and get better, whatever. Anyways.
Yeah, I don't think so. Like that's why we're trying to push the narrative that at the end of the day, ASICs produce compute power. That's what the actual ASIC is producing, is the SHA-256 algorithm. So, nothing more, nothing less. And really, that kind of rhetoric is what it holds back certain parts of the industry, like derivatives, true derivatives from emerging, because people get so confused on what Bitcoin mining is. You talk to people in the Bitcoin industry, and you're like, yeah, machines don't actually produce Bitcoin; they produce hash rate. And many like people who have spent years in Bitcoin industry still don't understand that because of that rhetoric. So I think
Yeah,
if we can dumb it down to its basics, what it truly is, we can open up the path for better derivatives built on this industry, and just more general understanding. No need to
agreed.
overcomplicate it.
For sure. For sure. As long as people aren't calling Bitcoin mining high performance computing, we're all good. So, another story coming out of Texas, which is going to have, I mean, and I think it's safe to say that it is going to have far reaching global and geopolitical implications, is the potential trade war with China, right? The US closed the embassy in Houston. I mean, obviously, before that, there's tension between China and the US. I think a lot of people would say that China and the US have been in a Cold War for, I mean, the better part of a decade. And it's really escalated since Trump took office, because he just has I mean, he's himself, right? Like, anyone who's watching on TV, you form your own opinion. He looks like a pain in the ass to deal with for everyone, foreign or domestic. So I think that has probably exacerbated the problem. Where does that leave Bitcoin mining? Like, what are we looking at here? How could this impact the industry even more?
Tariffs is definitely like the one that comes to mind first of all. I always thought they were 25%, but somebody recently told me they're like 28%. I think now, on ASICs shipping from China to the US. So in a game where you're trying to pay back your machine as quickly as possible, adding on 28% is pretty significant when you start thinking about like year and a half payback period, and then you add 28% to that time. So that's already a big impact. And uh, if we continue to see this war breakout, and tariffs to increase, that's going to really affect the ability for U.S. miners to uh, have attractive investment opportunities in mining. But there's some ways around that. Like you can sell to another country, like Canada, and then lease the machine from a Canadian company. The manufacturers could set up in Malaysia, like what Bitmain did. You
Mm-hmm.
can sell to like First Nations tribal land. Basically, like it's a sovereign nation within the U.S. So if you sell to that
Bro,
and
you're gonna
host your
ruin
machines there,
all
you
the
don't have to pay any
tricks.
tariff. Oh
You're
yeah,
gonna
it's
like
just
you're gonna blow all of these. Like no one's gonna be able to skirt taxes. Everyone, just remember, it's like timestamp this. This is it. We ruined the party. No, but you're right, dude.
cut that out.
You're right. No, but you're right, dude. Like, look, there's as long as there's taxes, there's going to be ways, like people trying to find ways around them. And let's face it, they're not going to be able to change anything on sovereign land in the United States. Like, there's no changes that can be made there. But still, it is like you think about that, adding months onto the ROI of a machine, it does make things detrimental. And we were talking about this on before the show a little bit. Is the one of the ways that they get around that is moving production out of China, which then taxes the back end, right? Because you get those machines to the States from Malaysia, and then you got a 20 to 30% failure rate. I mean, hey, it's not really much difference, right? So, well, I mean, okay, so in that situation though,
That's
which is
worse.
worse? Yeah, I was gonna say that's worse than the 28% tax, right? Because at least you
Yeah,
got
because then you have
machines
to
that
send your
work.
machines back.
Yeah.
Exactly. You have to send your machines back like weeks without machines. Like you don't know what it throws a wrench in your operations.
So ship to the Cherokee Nation or pay your taxes, right? Those are your options. And before anyone gets all uppity, I got in an argument about this with somebody earlier. I do happen to be Cherokee, as I feel like 90% of America is. But yeah, anyways, the trade war as it continues to heat up, it could be a double-edged sword, right? Like the tariffs could be a problem, but the actual trade war itself could prove to be pretty good for Bitcoin, right? Like the more there are trade embargoes and sanctions and the inability to do business in certain and in certain currencies, it forces people to look elsewhere. I mean, right? That's why Iran is keen on Bitcoin. That's why Russia's accumulated a lot of Bitcoin. It helps them skirt U.S. sanctions. So who knows that we may be, just we may have to swallow one pill so that we can see $150,000 Bitcoin.
That's a great point. Honestly, everything from the federal bank to geopolitics is all an experiment. And it's so easy to tell it's an experiment because if you look at 10 years ago, the federal bank and the geopolitical landscape was completely different. Every few years, they kind of change their view on how to run the world economy, the domestic economy. So I think it's intellectually lazy to think that an alternative to the existing system isn't of value. Whether you're a believer in Bitcoin or not, like having an alternative to this experiment that federal bankers and the Trump administration is running, that alone is a massive value prop. So I agree. I mean, I think like the more volatility in the world and uh, China trade war, like this is just going to highlight the need for a currency that's independent of politicians and central bankers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't think of the last time I was like, I want less options, right? I think more options are always better, you know? So speaking of options, I guess, shit, what a lead in here. Bitmain is at war. I mean, we are now seeing the full effects of everything that's going on behind the scenes at Bitmain corporate, with delays being announced yesterday on everything that they're they're getting ready to release. So what does that new schedule look like for people who should be getting machines here in the next, couple of weeks?
They announced yesterday that machines that were scheduled to arrive in June and July, which is already passed and hadn't been updated yet, are now scheduled for September, October. So a lot of miners had received notification, hey, your machine's delayed, no expected timeline. Now they're getting told, it's going to come 3 months later. They're offering some compensation in the form of coupons, but it's still a huge. It's a really negative for operations that were planning on receiving them. So I don't know. Do you think that they're going to even delay further than October? What do you
Yeah.
think? Do you think they're going to?
I mean, what stops the delays, right? Like what does it take to get them back on track? Is it a resolution at the company? Because that ain't happening, right? Like, I don't think it's a safe assumption that Bitmain's going to tighten things up and get back to business in the next, 3, 4, 5 weeks, maybe not even months. And God, like the opportunity cost that these people are like, they've deployed all that capital and fuck your coupons, man. Like Bitcoin's over $11,500, right? Like I bought these
Yeah,
machines. It was at 9,300. I was supposed to get them at 9,300 and plug them in and get them set up and troubleshoot and overclock them. And I should be making bank right now. So these guys are missing out on ROI, right? They're missing out on the ability to capture that revenue. And like, this isn't the first time they've done it, you know? It's,
yeah.
I mean, this reason is unique, but how crazy would it be if we were to find out that all of these machines that were supposed to be sent in June and have been delayed are actually plugged in somewhere in China and hashing away for Bitmain? They're just testing them. They just want to make sure that they work, right? Like we like at Hash Rate, we have an internal joke that Bitmain pre-ROIs their machines, right? Like we want to we want to make sure, like we just want to test and make sure everything works properly, and then once we're sure, we'll send them to you.
Little ROI for you.
Yeah, man, yeah. I like, okay,
Pre-ROI.
pre-ROI. You were at Mining Disrupt last year, like not the virtual one, but the one in real life. Do you remember that hardware panel when like it was an argument? Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
I didn't go in person because I was in Hong Kong at the time, but I watched the video like Christy moderated.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, everyone that went to Mining Disrupt this year watched the video from last year, right? Nice play, guys. But no, they argued about this a bit, about the best business practices, let's say. What are your thoughts, man? Like, as an American company, could you imagine doing this to customers and being able to survive?
I think it comes down to transparency. So there's a couple of reasons why this has been so bad in the past. First, they were secret mining a lot of altcoin chains. So somebody like Sia Chain, Sia Coin, they've poured out years into building this decentralized cloud storage platform. I think something every single person in this industry can agree would be an amazing thing to compete with Amazon on a decentralized basis. And then out of nowhere, Bitmain starts secret mining the chain and threatens the security of the network without even consulting the team, without even releasing the machines. So in that situation, that's like threatening, a valuable network. That's like a blatant attack. In terms of like Bitcoin pre-mining, honestly, I think it's fine as long as they tell people, look, we've been using your machine for 6 months. It has this much wear and tear on it. Like it has this higher chance of failure because we did it. And now you can make a decision whether you want to buy it or not. And it'll probably turn out they go to WhatsMiner or one of the other manufacturers. But I think what they're doing, which is, historically secret mining on it and not telling people, and then they receive it and there's dust on the fan or bugs in it. Like that's really bad. Like, come on. And to your point, like, no, an American company could not do that and get away with it.
Is it time to rug pull on Bitmain, right? Like, is it time to just, for everyone to just call in their checks? Like if it were me, I mean, you got to make a decision. Like, what's miner, they're not exactly flush with machines right now either, right? So it's not like you can get all of your money back and start mining. But I mean, at this point, I mean, honestly, depending on the size of your company, it's almost better to hold the Bitcoin, like to just get your money and buy Bitcoin and hold it, and then look at buying machines once things have changed. I know that may seem counterintuitive, but I mean, if we are, like, let's say we're getting into a substantial run up, like I mean, there's just so much opportunity costs. You're basically just letting USD sit somewhere and depreciate in value. You're not able to make any Bitcoin with that money. You're not able to grow your value in Bitcoin. You're not able to grow your stack. So it just sucks, man. It just sucks. I wish there was something more that can be done. I wish there was an alternative where people could take their money to buy machines. This has to end at some point. It just there has to be somebody that fills this gap.
Yeah. Well, you point out a lot that mining is very capitalist in nature. So this higher risk of machines not being delivered or have higher failure rate, like that should be priced in. So I think we'll start to see that happen where less miners are willing to place pre-orders with Bitmain and wait out to see what happens at their company. And so naturally, I think the market will react to this and start looking for alternatives. So if Bitmain continues this type of thing, they'll eventually lead to its demise. I've been obviously advocating for people to buy What's Miner, but I think the market will ultimately decide.
Sure. Yeah, they're a great group of people. I wish them all the best, and hopefully this stuff with Bitmain gets resolved, because there's a lot of good people that are waiting to get set up, and I hope that they can get hashing as fast as possible, and cash in on this time that people have been waiting years for. So, it's, knock on wood, this all gets resolved pretty quickly. But speaking of hashing and hash rate, time to get into our hash rate index portion of proof of news and start talking about what's going on with hash price. What's up, man? What's the news?
Let me share a screen here quickly so we can run through with the
God, look at
visuals.
Look at that. It looks so good.
Yeah, the new UI. Eddie did a great job on this. We just launched V2 of the site this week, but I guess we're on the hash price chart here. Over the past 7 days since we last spoke, last Thursday, we've seen a pretty good run up in the value of hash rate. So miners are a lot happier now than they were a week ago. We're almost at 11 cents a terahash per day. So that's about a 9% increase from where we're at last week. That's mostly caused by a little run up in price here we've seen, heading towards that 12K mark that you're talking about. So let's hope we can cross that over the next 24 hours. And then also transaction fees have been great lately, which John from the hash rate team had a really nice post on in the hash rate newsletter that everyone should follow and check out. So I think those two trends have been good over the past 7 days.
Yeah. So we're emission schedule. So we're right now, I mean, you're talking about a 9% increase since last week. How are we trending? I mean, do you think we're going to see a continued increase in the price per terahash as we move forward into the next week? Does it look like things are just going to continue upward, or are we getting to kind of a plateau?
I'm bullish. I think like your points last week on altcoin trading season benefits Bitcoin. I think you had some good points on that. So I think as even DeFi is hyped, obviously a lot of it flows to Ethereum, and you've seen that Ethereum, the value of ETH hash has gone up 70% over the past 2 weeks. So a lot of it's flowed to Ethereum, but definitely Bitcoin still benefits from it. So I mean, what do you think? Like, do you think that's going to continue and benefit Bitcoin?
Yeah, I do. Alts had a really nice pop yesterday, and then Bitcoin ran up, today. They're in the process of getting crushed right now. And then, things will level off. Maybe we cross 12K. We probably don't cross 12K in the next 12 hour or in the next 24 hours. But hey, look, anything can happen. A green candle can come at any time. we stay under 12K, things will level off for a little while. Alts will run again. And then it'll just continue, right? It'll either go slow and steady and we'll keep seeing a rise. Or we very well could see the results of Dave Portnoy. And this thing could go to 20K fast. Like we could see a new all-time high in 9 to 10 days if he really captivates his following and gets them all buying Bitcoin. I mean, frankly speaking, like you look at what he's done for some of the bullshit stocks that he's talked about, right? They go crazy. And now he's speaking to an audience that a lot of them are, Bitcoin is already on the radar, this kind of validation. I mean, you could see this eclipse the market cap from the previous all-time high really, really quickly.
In that case, would you start to sell at the top?
Would I start
would you try and time the top? Let's say this pops to 20K because Barstools is promoting it to their, stock bot army of college traders. Like, in my opinion, that's such like weak hands that like as soon as the red candlestick comes in, they're gone. So,
yeah,
well, I think it's good for adoption. I don't know if I'd want to, not like, take down some of my position at that top.
Yeah, I'm not a technical trader, right? So I don't try to, call tops and bottoms. I look at sentiment and fundamentals. Obviously, the fundamentals of Bitcoin are always strong, and it's going to lead the market always. And sentiment is, I would say, getting more and more bullish by the day. So it's a great time to have a significant part of your portfolio if you're diversified. Let's say a significant part of your portfolio should be in Bitcoin, in my opinion. At this point, I'm scaling back on all of my alt positions and going mostly to Bitcoin. I don't I know I may get chastised or criticized for this. I don't sell my Bitcoin. I don't cash out my Bitcoin. I literally, since I've started, have never transferred Bitcoin back to USD. I'm only accumulating, and any kind of altcoin trades that I make, that all goes right back to Bitcoin. So, I'm bullish. I'd like to get, to 80 or 90% Bitcoin before we hit that 20K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I like that strategy. And then I think one of the interesting things that John highlighted in the newsletter was like transaction fees. So we're seeing pretty high transaction fees now, but relative to the 2017 run up, they're nowhere close to what they were.
Right.
And I think there's a few things he highlights in that newsletter. First of all, people are less urgent than they were, and that could change with Barstool coming in, right? Like then people could be willing to pay a 4x what they're willing to pay now because they want their, purchase in the next block.
Absolutely.
But for now, people are less urgent. Also, people are smarter about blocking transactions together. So exchanges used to just do one-off trades, but now they can block it together. Group it trades together and pay less fees. Grouped fees went from 6% in 2017 to now 12% of exchange volume. So pretty significant change there. And then obviously Lightning Network and what all those guys are doing over there, the great work, and SegWit, I think, also contribute to that. So we're heading into an environment where Barstool could jack up the transaction fees to somewhat close to 2017 levels, but ultimately there's these other things at play that would prevent it from going, to that level.
I'm holding out hope. We might just see 20K before the end of September. Let's get a big green candle to start the next quarter. So what else are you seeing as far as the stats that you guys are reviewing here? And you got some new tabs here. You guys have added some stuff for V2.
Yeah, we added a stocks page. This is a work in progress. So the idea with this is that we're actually going to start tracking all the trading multiples of all the publicly listed mining companies. So you can start getting like a median EV to EBITDA, which is enterprise value to your earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization. And you can start to take the median of that across mining companies. So while public mining companies are obviously valued different than private, you can start coming up with these views on, okay, if I generate $1 million of EBITDA, how much is my company worth if I were to be public? Is it worth 4 million? Is it worth 5? That sort of thing. So that's what we're building to. Right now, we just have a database of all the publicly listed mining companies, and you can kind of click into these cards and see some of their stats. But this is V1, so V2 is going to be a lot better than this.
When is V2 coming?
Guzman's going to kill me, but next couple of weeks.
There we go. Pressure's on, Guzman. Pressure's on. No, but you guys have done a really good job with this. Okay, so sorry to get back to it.
Yeah, so the rig index is like the other update that happened recently. This is basically tracks the value of machines that we went through last week. We updated every Wednesday morning. So since the last update, the major change actually has been in the second generation machines. This 38 to 60 joules per terahash bucket. The second line here, the purple one. That saw like a 10% increase week over week, quite significant for rig prices. So I think a lot of that's being driven is people can't get their hands on new rigs. Obviously, we talked about Bitmain earlier, so they're turning to the secondary markets. The Telegram chats, the WeChat groups, and they're buying up old machines like S17s that are kind of second gen machines now, and the M20Ss and stuff like that. Their value has increased pretty significantly. So I think if Bitmain continues to push back timelines, like we're going to see that second gen and maybe even third gen, those buckets are really going to trend upwards over the next like few months.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you got to get something online, right? You got all that space, you got these power contracts, you got to plug something in mine. It's interesting. And here we thought everything was just going to die, right? Like it's time to retire the old machines. The S19s are here to wreck shop in 2022. So
yeah, the takeaway is like never throw out machines. You can sell them for at the bottom, but don't throw them out if like you can store them, right? Like an S9, don't throw it out. Store it. Pay like a few bucks a month to store it, because you never know. Like if a bull run happens, those things are going to be profitable again. So
here we are. We'll see how many people actually paid attention to that. All right. So as you're looking, I see the rig price versus OpEx, right? So right now, I think that there's a lot of very interesting trends, and we've had conversations over the past couple of weeks with different people regarding OpEx and CapEx and how that's all shaping up. And we talked about it a little bit last week, right? So now that some of these second and third tiers are coming on, how is this like? How do you see this being impacted? Profitability is obviously going to be dependent upon factors other than just the machine's the machine's value. So how does this impact?
Really, OpEx stays the same across the board with these industry trends. So the difference really is in that CapEx level. So this is on a nanometer, like a chip basis versus efficiency. But I think that 9 to 12 nanometer range is going to become less attractive because that CapEx cost is going to be driven up. The OpEx is going to stay the same. And you can start to see that really, week over week, that difference is shrinking. And so I think it's ultimately it's gonna be bad for miners, really, right? Like higher CapEx if it is
The way that it is now. Yeah.
What this doesn't show is the revenue, and that's like another factor, because the delays in Bitmain machines means that less hash rates added to the network, difficulty increases, less aggressively, and their revenue is better. And so this visual doesn't show it, but miners are paying a fee on the CapEx, but then they're benefiting from it on the revenue side. And our next difficulty adjustment's coming up in 4 days here, and it's only expected to be just between 0 to 1%. So that's pretty it's low compared to what people would have thought we'd be at, and especially what the FTX markets were trading at. So I think like the revenue side is going to help miners, even though they get hit on the CapEx.
Yeah, man, God, it is crazy that it's not even a percentage point yet, right? Getting to where we are as far as the price goes, and now difficulty is still that low. This adjustment, it'll be interesting. So, what's your take? I mean, as we look forward to the next week, I mean, we can't predict the news, but what do you think are some of the things that we are going to see in the next handful of days before we get back to the next proof of news? What are you expecting to see?
I'd be surprised if hash price stays at what it is now, which is 10.8 cents a terahash. Either something's going to happen with Bitcoin, difficulty is going to come in, transaction fees could change a lot. So, I mean, that's really a stat you should be, as a miner, you should be tracking almost daily, is that dollars per terahash. So I'm looking forward to continuing to watch this roller coaster of a ride it's been. People forget how volatile this is, like 10% in a week. This is the value of hash rate is 3 times more volatile than the price of Bitcoin. That's insane volatility for a commodity producer. Like, people thought Bitcoin was volatile, right? Like, think about if you throw in Bitcoin price, difficulty, transaction fees. That's a real mix-up of volatile factors that create, an interesting commodity for miners to deal with.
Yeah, this is, I think we're coming into a very exciting time. There's a lot of really good things to look forward to. And, I'm excited for, the fact that as more attention gets paid, there is a little bit of negative press on aspects of, mining when it comes to like China and those things. There's also a ton of positive press and a lot of really great things that are going on. I'm glad that we're able to highlight some of them. But more than anything, I'm glad that other people are going to be able to see how freaking cool and innovative and all of the good things that are happening right now in Bitcoin mining. So yeah, it's going to be a great week. We will cross 12K sometime between now and the next proof of news. So I hope everyone's enjoying these bull market profits. Living it up a little bit. Treat yourself.
Yeah.
Ethan, is there anything
the next bull run will be so different too than the last one? Like, if you look at late 2017 bull run and you tried to get information on mining companies, there was none out there. Now, like, if we go into another bull run and new people are entering the market, they can go on the Hash Rate podcast and listen to 50 episodes and learn about almost every company in mining. Like, that type of resource, I think, will be incredibly valuable for new entrants. So it's going to be completely different.
Yeah,
it's going to be.
I mean, dude,
it's just so much more transparent now.
There is, and I mean, look, I one of the things that and thanks for the Hash Rate podcast mention, but one of the things I'm really excited about is this, like in this show, and I know we've talked about it, but I mean, daddy YouTube is a very real thing. Like, people look to YouTube for advice more than ever, and Hash Rate podcast is great, and we've started to move that over to YouTube. But I'm really excited about this show and this format because it's something that is approachable, and it is, I'm pumped for this, man. I've enjoyed the last couple of conversations. I'm excited for the weeks to come. And little plug here for anyone who is watching. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to be launching Hash Rate TV, and Hash Rate TV will be the home of Proof of News as well as some of the other shows. It is unofficially dubbed Bull Run Central. So we will get the link out so everyone's able to subscribe, tune into Proof of News, and make sure that you're getting all of the awesome takes from Mr. Ethan Vera that I just get to, make, commentary on as we do this. I'm honored by your presence, dude. This is awesome.
No, this is so much fun, man. I enjoy doing this. I mean, we talk mining all day, 7 days a week anyway, so might as well have an hour of it recorded.
Hell yeah. All right, man. Well, until next week, it was good talking to you, and we'll do this again soon.
Cheers, buddy.
All right. Take care, everyone. Thanks for watching this episode of Proof of News, a Hash Rate TV production. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing for more great content like this every day of the week. In addition, feel free to leave a comment below and let us know what you'd like to see discussed on the next episode of Proof of News. We'd love to hear from you. Also, if you head over to hashrate.com, you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter, Difficulty Adjustment. Every Wednesday morning, we provide you with the latest news and information on Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and mining. Plus, each week, one newsletter subscriber will be selected at random to receive a free Ledger Nano S cryptocurrency wallet. So go ahead and sign up today. Who knows? You may be the next lucky winner. Want more from Hashrate? Follow Hashrate TV on Twitter. It's the easiest way to keep track of our newest content all in one place. That's at HASHR8_TV. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you very soon. Please remember that all content appearing on this or any other Hashrate channel is strictly for informational and entertainment purposes only. You should not construe any such information as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Consult a licensed financial advisor before investing yours or anyone else's money.